I'm Kimberly Thurston-Brown of Keep It Moving Urban Outreach, and if you didn't know me then, you certainly wouldn't think I would become who I am now, and I'm just so grateful to be here to talk about it.
I ain't that shit.
It's about self-empowerment. It's about self-awareness. It's about self-respect.
Hey, it's Nate, and welcome to another episode of I Ain't That Chick. I am here with Miss Kimberly Thurston-Brown. Please say hello to our audience.
Hello, audience.
Now, Kimberly, we met on the set of Black Girl Monologues, and created by Miss Yolanda Hughes herself. And I got to hear a little bit about your story, but I want to go a little bit more in detail now. Now, I know you're in school to become a licensed evangelist, and you're happily married, but things didn't always, have such a clean-cut path for you. I want you to take us back a little bit to your childhood, and maybe share a little bit of what things were like.
So growing up, both my parents were drug addicts, my mother and my father. My dad, they were married. They got married after my mom was pregnant. My dad, as the story unfolds, I found out my dad was using heroin by the time he was 13. And my mom, she probably started, she was dabbling with coke, sniffing, and she really didn't start shooting up until I was about 2. And so I was just raised in that environment. My dad moved from New Jersey to California. He ended up coming back to New Jersey. He was involved in what do they call it, manslaughter. He killed someone.
Okay.
So this was the type of life that I lived. They were both getting high by the time I was 2. So that's how, but my mom, fortunately, my mom was a dental assistant. She was a professional person. She was a functioning addict. My mom had a mother. Her name was Eliza Robinson, and she basically raised me. My mom had to go to different rehabs. My grandmother took me in. She raised me. But by the time I was 11, I was very rebellious. I was very angry. I knew what was going on. I knew, at a very young age, my mom had swollen hands. I knew my grandmother was telling her, oh, you gotta wear long sleeve shirts. At the time, one of the popular movies that was out was Billie Holiday with Diana Ross. So, and then in the 80s, the new thing in school was say no to drugs, say no to drugs. And you're in school hearing say no to drugs, and then you got to go home to a mom who's a drug addict.
But you said you became very rebellious.
I became very rebellious. What I did was at 11, I voluntarily started talking to boys on the phone.
Okay.
And my grandmother's first reaction was, oh, you're going to be pregnant if you talk to boys on the phone. And so I would go to my grandmother's house. I couldn't talk to boys on the phone. My mother's house, I was allowed to talk to boys on the phone.
Okay.
So my grandmother was like, well, you need to just go live with your mom because she's letting you talk to this boy on the phone. And from there, staying with my mom, I was just able to do whatever I wanted to do. So by the time I was 13, I was cutting hooky from school. I was hanging with, the local drug dealers. I was going to New York. I was just doing whatever I wanted to. I had a fake ID. And I guess what typical girls was doing, I didn't want to be around like the normalness, because if I was around a normal girl, it would make me feel, inferior. It made me feel like you're normal. You got a happy mom. You got a happy life. And then here I got to go home to my chaos. So I just would be with the hustlers is doing whatever they were doing, because typically if they're 15 and they're hustling, their house is a mess too. We were dropping out of school. So the highest grade I completed at that time was the 9th grade.
Wow.
So at that particular time, I did go back and get my GED.
Okay.
I have an associate's degree now in liberal arts. I have a bachelor's degree now in psychology, and I'm going to go back and get my master's and hopefully my doctorate. That's my plan. But
give me some.
That's my plan.
So now your mom, though, but as you're growing up and, I would say going to high school, but those high school years, what were you doing during those high school years when you should have been in school?
Well, I had a baby by the time I was 16. I was just, laying around, sleeping till 12 o'clock in the afternoon, getting up at, staying out all night, sleeping late, drinking, smoking weed.
And mom was around, but did she
was,
ever?
I would be between my mom's house and my aunt's house, my uncle's house, and a lot of times, first I started lying to them. They thought I was in school, and I wasn't in school. So that's where it started. Or I would say I'm spending the night at this one's house, spending at that person's house, and nobody was really checking up on me.
And no discipline
so
at all.
No discipline, no money,
no
discipline.
spanking. You know, I gotta call it spanking, but y'all know what it really was. It was none of that.
And I longed for some correction. I mean, and as I got older, when I had my daughter, I said maybe if somebody would have spanked me, if somebody would have told me, you know, don't do this. And I guess it got to the point where I don't know why I was able to go as long as I was unchecked, uncorrect. But by the time I had my daughter at 16, I gave my life to Christ at 20. So the run must have been, when I think about it in hindsight, from, let's just say 14, like really 13, 11 was when I made a choice to start talking to guys. And I'm not just talking about talking to guys. I was at age 11. Okay, I made a solid choice that, yes, you're going to be my boyfriend and you're going to love me. And this was an 11-year-old.
But now, at 11, though, when you're doing this, do you feel like, okay, you know, something is wrong, I shouldn't be doing this inside? Or it was just...
I felt like I felt like I was grown. They talk like, no, people always told you, you're a fresh one, you grown. And I felt like, yeah, I am grown. I know it. Because I had saw a lot by that time. I've seen a lot. I was involved with a lot, you know. A lot of times people think that the kids don't know what's going on. I knew what was going on. I knew, you know, and then when you don't have a lot of things, so because of the drug addiction, you know, food stamps we didn't have food. Food stamps would get sold, and I know I can go outside and talk to Hakeem and say, Hakeem, give me some money for some pizza, or Hakeem, give me some money for some sneakers. He'll come through, and I had Hakeem, I had Robert, I had Mustafa, I had the whole, you know, and I thought I was I thought I was the mom, you know, and when I got with my daughter's father, he was abusive. He, you know, at the age of, by the time we were together, I must have been 15. I was with him from 15 to 20, and he was able to spend the night at the house with me, you know. So that's
in your room, because I couldn't even have company in my room, and mom was there. Now, how did this make you feel about your mom? Did you respect her? Did you?
At the time, I thought it was just fun. I thought we had the cool parents. It wasn't just something my mom would allow. Other mothers was allowing it. It was just the environment that we grew up in. So I don't want to make it like my mother was a bad person. She wasn't the only one, the only mother allowing it. I have to teeter-totter on some of the things, because before I say something, I talk to her first and say, Mom, I'm going to share this with people. Do you mind if I share it? When I wrote my monologue, I said, Mom, read it, and I performed it for her so many times before I shared it with anyone else. So I talked to her first, and she really likes the fact that I talk about it, because she says, I want people to know what drugs will do to their lives. After I got out of the streets, I came into church. It was a total 180. It's a total switch. I became I had a situation where I'm been saved. I was saved for like 3 years, and I was trying to like get into the word, and I'm not going to fornicate, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that. And I ran into
so hard. I was
trying. I had my little secret messes, you know. But I ran into a minister who told me that if we had sex, we would be married in the spirit, and that devastated me.
Really?
That devastated me.
And you believed that?
I believed him. I believed him. I wanted to be married. I wanted, you know, a man of God, and he was a son of a pastor's, but he had been a good community person, ended up going to jail, coming out of jail, and he was going to start a church, and he said God told him that I was his wife, and we were just, you know, going to church functions together, and we were doing this and we were doing that. And then one day he said, well, you know, whatever you do in secret, God will bless openly. And it was around the time of Juanita Bynum's No More Sheets, and if you have sex, you'll be married spirit type of thing. And I went and I met him down at a hotel. He was doing some youth thing, and after we, you know, had sex or whatever, I was very depressed, and my mom knew something was wrong with me, and she was like, it's that minister, what happened with you and that minister? And I didn't want to tell anybody about it, because he said, whatever we do in secret, God will bless openly. So I'm trying to keep it to myself. And
you're thinking you're gonna get married?
I'm thinking we are married.
Like yes. Did he give you a ring?
He didn't even give me no ring. How about I should have got a ring?
You should have got a ring.
Put a ring on it, right? I was So I was from the streets and into the church, and in my mind, I thought that the church
place, though.
Yes, I did not think that what was going on out in the world was happening in the church, and I'm so grateful that, you know what, they say the church is a place for sick folks, and it is. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So, trying to get better. Some of us.
And I was in that moment when that happened to me. I went into a depression because I began to get mad at God. I said, God, you gave me 2 parents like this. I get into the church and you let a man who says he's a minister abuse me like this. Because I said, this is not mental abuse, this is more spiritual abuse. So when Floyd, my husband, came into my life, thank you, baby. I'm blushing for you.
I'm blushing for you and Floyd.
Yes, because that same project that I told you I grew up in, he grew up in the projects with me too.
Really?
So we knew each other. So when we came back around into each other's life, we had a childhood history together, but he never ran in the same circles that I ran in. He graduated high school. He was a good guy. I was having some trust issues. I was seeing my counselor because I couldn't deal with trust.
You had been through a
I don't know if I was going to
get some trust
I wanted
issues.
to be married again, but I wasn't sure I was going to ever be married again. My friends was teasing me. They said if a man coughed wrong, you leaving him alone. That's how many men I had dated from the 7 to 9 years. I was like, and I was like, oh no, you know. And but when Floyd came into my life, I just began to trust again, and I never trusted anyone like I trusted him now. And so I'm just so grateful that God would, you know, bless me to be married again.
And happily
married. Yeah.
But now I want you to look into our camera, because I'm sure there's a new year, 2016, and somebody's probably saying, well, God, you know, there looks like a bunch of chaos in my life, and you know, God, I believe you. Or they may not even be a believer, but God, can something good come out of this chaos? And I just want you to give a message of hope at the beginning of this year to somebody that might be looking and may have a similar story, may not, but they need some hope. What would you say to them?
I would say yes, it can. They talk about when Jesus was born, can anything good come from Nazareth? Can anything good come from the projects? I'm here to tell you, yes, it can. You know, can anything good come from parents who suffer from addiction? Yes, it can. Can anything good come from someone who was in an abusive relationship? Yes, it can. Can anything good come from someone who was out there hustling? Yes, it can. But it can only happen, in my opinion, when you give your life to Jesus Christ. Had I not given my life to Jesus Christ, I don't know where I would be. I don't know where I would be. And I know that it was just so much more than these stories that you heard. Those were stories, but there was things going on in my mind that I needed to be free from. There's still things that I'm going through today. So I encourage anybody to not only, as you change your life, become educated, get your mental health help. I also had to go get counseling from some of these things that I went through. It wasn't just enough to just overcome. I needed help overcoming. So whether it was the church helped me, I went to see a counselor, a support group, whatever I needed to do, I had to help myself, you know. And I thank God that God gave me the wisdom and the knowledge to keep on keeping on, to keep on getting help, to keep on getting up. So the name of the outreach is Keep It Moving Urban Outreach. My name is Kimberly, Kim, K-I-M, Keep It Moving. Because some of the people, when they hear the story, like, how did you stop? How did you keep going? How did you keep going? And I had to sit back and think about it. I had to stop. I couldn't be stuck. I had to get unstuck. So I had to keep it moving. I had to keep it moving. The situations hurt. Yes, they are hurt when your mom and your dad are in those situations, and they're hurt. And sometimes you think you're plagued to the lifestyle of your parents, but you don't have to be. You have your own life, and that's one of the things that I realized, that I have my own life. Yes, my mother was my mother, my father was my father, and despite what people said, because you came from that, this is what you're going to be. The devil was a liar. He is a liar. He is a liar. Because I'm so grateful that God said it ain't so. Exactly. He adopts us into the family.
Man that be in Christ Jesus
is a new creature. Old things have passed away. All things have become new. And another scripture that I stood on is that, and I'm so grateful for my husband, Floyd Brown. I thank God because, you know, he just helps me so much. He's
loves you. Just loves you.
Yeah, he does.
Somebody just love you unconditionally and love your past, love your present, and love your future.
Yes.
And that's beautiful. That'll take you a long ways. And you know what I love about your story? Yes, you were out there in the streets and some hustling, and you had a baby. And yeah, most people would focus on that being the story, but I like the story outside of the story, the change, the transformation, the translation, and the transition. And if God did it for you, He will do it for you.
Want to find out more about I Ain't That Chick? Visit our website at www.iaintthatchick.com.